You're watching the News Hour Special Edition.
Welcome back. The Taliban have captured much of the northern, western and southern Afghanistan and are now battling government forces just a few kilometers south of Kabul. The lightning advance comes less than 3 weeks before America is all set to withdraw its last batch of troops after nearly 20 years of war. Amid the fighting, Afghan President Ashraf Ghani said that remobilization of the country's armed forces was a top priority. He gave no hint, however, of him either resigning or taking responsibility for the current situation.
پوسانی وضعیت که د امنیتي او دفاعي قواو بیا انسجام زموږ لومړی توپ دی او په دې هکله جدي اقدامات تر لاس لاندې دي. در حالی که میدانم که از حال و آینده‌تان نگران هستید، برایتان اطمینان میدهم که به عنوان رئیس جمهورتان تمرکز من بر این است تا از گسترش بیشتر بی‌ثباتی، خشونت و آوارگی مردمم جلوگیری کنم. به عنوان یک رسالت تاریخی تلاش میکنم تا نگذارم جنگ تحمیل شده بر مردم افغانستان بیشتر از این باعث کشتار مردم بیگناه، از دست رفتن دستاوردهای 20 ساله شما، تخریب تأسیسات عامه و بی‌ثباتی دوامدار شود.
Let me open this up. M. Ashraf Haidari, Ambassador of Afghanistan to Sri Lanka, heads DG Policy and Strategy, Afghan Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Joining us, Maruf Raza, Group Consulting Editor, Times Network. Vivek Karju, former diplomat, Secretary, Ministry of External Affairs, needs no introduction. RSN Singh, author, analyst, completes the panel. Vivek Karju, I want to begin by asking you, straightforward, sir. India has said that we will not recognize the hostile takeover. But what options are we left with now?
Very few. Let me add that I think the Taliban represent an ideology which is completely against that of the Indian state. But diplomacy requires pragmatism. And pragmatism demanded for many years, and I've been pleading for many years, that while we maintain our full support to Kabul, we should open up like everyone else was opening up to the Taliban. Now, in Doha yesterday, 12 countries announced in a statement that they will not accept any government established by force. I think that is a welcome development. But will that solidarity remain? Will China and Russia and other countries remain steadfast in this? The situation on the ground in Afghanistan is very grim. President Ghani is trying to rouse the people, but the unfortunate part is that the Afghan National Security Forces have not been able to combat the Taliban. And the tragedy has been that the authentic leaders of Afghanistan, those who were in touch with the ground, were dismissed by the West as warlords. They were not warlords. We knew many of them. I knew many of them personally, and I know them still. They were people who had emerged from, they were leaders who had emerged from the people. They led militias. Instead of using them, the West and Americans in particular cut them down to size. And I'm afraid there was a section of the Afghan political elite which came from the West, which applauded this process. And today, ironically, what is happening in Mazar? Who is President Ghani relying on? On Dostum, on Mohaqqiq, on Atanur. But they are people who are left with no tools. Their militias are gone, their supporters with weapons are gone. So there is a vacuum. In Kabul today, from the reports I've been getting, there is panic. So it's good for the president to rouse his people and lead his people, but realism demands...
Is the president in a position to do all of that? RSN
That
Singh?
is the question. That is the question. Whereas he has no tools left.
RSN Singh, coming quickly, sir.
No, this is my, humble view. I followed Sri Lanka very, very closely, because of, the desk that I was handling, both in MI and, other organizations. But that was a time when a lot of meetings, they don't have Sri Lankan security forces don't have the stomach to fight, finally we will have to deal with, the LTT. But I always had this feeling that, look, a government of the day has got a lot of options at the end of the day. I'm not saying that it is exactly unfold the way it unfolded in Sri Lanka.
Are we talking of Sri Lanka?
No. I'm talking about Afghanistan. I'm saying that the government. One minute, sir. I'm saying that don't write off the Afghan security forces by just one stroke. The consolidation phase has just not. It has not begun. With 55,000, Taliban soldiers, capturing a government building, killing a governor may be one thing. But once with just 55,000 people you have to consolidate, you are going into a civil war. So therefore, I would say that wait and watch how it unfolds. You cannot be, giving credit to forces. You assert power like that. And Britain may not be interested in nation building of Afghanistan. We damn will be interested in nation building of Pakistan because they belong to the extended Indian subcontinent.
Right. Before I get in Maruf Raza, I want to understand what Mr. Hydari thinks about the prevailing situation.
What the prevailing situation is unfortunately very concerning, worrying Afghans, especially innocent civilians that have borne the brunt of the extremely violent offensives Taliban over the past 3 months, having displaced over 600,000 people, many of whom have ended up on the streets and parks of Kabul in need of humanitarian. And so that's why we have been pushed the peaceful solution and the framework of the Doha Agreement, which was signed between the Taliban and the United States in February 2020, where all sides made commitments. Of course, we made our commitment and delivered upon, although we were not included in the negotiation that led up to the signing of that deal, and as well as I've decided to leave and withdraw as much as it has very destabilizing impact on the situation. And so it's really now, I think, Taliban.
Maruf Raza.
Deliver, and also for the international community to actually get them to do that, because they've really refused to deliver on.
Are we in a position, is India in a position to dictate, or should we just wait and watch? Maruf.
Well, the short answer is we just have to wait and watch, because we really don't carry much clout there, even at the high point of our engagement with Afghanistan's governments, and Ambassador Karju will bear me out on that. We have been the largest single investor in Afghanistan in terms of tangible benefits that we brought to the people of Afghanistan, from schools, bridges, hospitals, even the parliament building. But at the end of the day, I think we chose to play hide and seek with our engagement with the various dispensations in Afghanistan, whether, as Ambassador Karju would argue, that we were talking to Taliban behind doors while we were still engaging with the Western countries and NATO in Afghanistan, but we were never invited to the high table. Some people argue we didn't want to be in the high table.
Right.
I cannot comprehend the logic of this. You're putting so much of money in, and upwards is not small amount for a country like us. What in return? You are just now wanting to hang on in a strategic. You should have been putting that money in. You would have won kudos, if not others. We need to understand is who is.
Maru, we are having a bad line with you. There's an audio issue, and I'll have to wrap the show. I thank all of you, Vivek Katju, RSN Singh, Maruf Raza, and Mr. Aidri for joining us on debate number 2 on Times Now.